What is going on, guys? Politics Gaming here, and today we are interviewing Louis-Marie Rocques. He is the founder of Eversim and the creator of the Power and Revolution franchise, or geopolitical simulator franchise, as you guys know it as. So today, basically, we are just going to be going over a couple of things, which is how the company was created, why they are doing what they're doing, and more. So stay tuned and you guys will be able to see just what Eversim is, who Louis is. So without further ado, we are finally having the interview that you guys have been waiting for, the interview with Louis-Marie Rocques with Eversim. Alright, Louis, welcome to the channel. For those who don't know, Louis-Marie Rocques is the founder of Eversim and the co-creator of the geopolitical simulator franchise, such as Rulers of Nations, Masters of the World, and Power and Revolution, along with Power and Revolution 2019, which has just been released just a couple of months ago. For those just now joining, welcome to the channel, and to Louis, thank you for joining me today, and how are you?
So I'm fine, and I love you too. I'm also very happy to have this interview. I'm sure many players would like to it. This is the first time really I did so big interview about the game itself. I did some interview in the past, but for journalists in a newspaper, which was a bit different.
That's honestly very understandable because a lot of game developers actually do not talk to YouTubers. Obviously, I'm pretty different because I'm literally just a YouTuber with just a couple thousand subscribers talking to a game developer. It's not the biggest thing for game companies to talk to smaller YouTubers, and I do appreciate that opportunity for you. To the audience, today we will be discussing a couple of different topics such as the formation of Eversim, why they started political simulation, what they did in the past, and what is up for the future. Alright, so our first question for you today is, how did Eversim begin? Why did you start this company?
So the Eversim was founded in 2004. After we have run a previous company called EXPIRES. EXPIRES company was founded in 1987. Which is a long time ago, where the game market was so much different. The idea with Eversim was really to, I would say, concentrate on a specific game genre, maybe a share of the market, more exactly strategy and simulation side. And this was in order to avoid a strong competition with big top actors on the market, which is obviously not easy at all for a small independent company to do. And the first plan was to develop a geopolitical simulator.
And this was whenever you created the first one back in 2009?
Yeah, between 2004 and 2009, we just developed the game itself. It took a lot of time. We did a few other things in between, working a couple of projects with another company, but this was only project that's never been released. So anyway, it took like 2-3 years before to have an initial version of geopolitical simulator.
This was Commander-in-Chief, correct?
Yeah, in fact, the first version of geopolitical simulator was released in 2008, sometime after we released Commander-in-Chief on the US market. But German, Russian, Spanish version were released in 2008, so a year before. But it took time really to be translated, localized, I don't know what. And also, it was not so easy as today to put a product on the market, because by that time the market was still driven by DVD-ROM in supermarkets, and so you have to find a distributor, a publisher in every country. It's a big job.
So you and your brother Andre and Pascal Unsweiler run the company, and you guys founded a company together. Who is still with the company today, and what role do they play? And are you the final sayer in all of the decisions that are made, in such as patches, such as features, etc.?
So Andre and myself are the key actors and funders of Eversim. where Pascal was former artist at Silmarils. He joined us for working on the graphic content of Geopolitical Simulator. That was the story. Andre and me are collaborating for our subject of the game content and mechanism, even today. And I have to say there is no real final sayer. I'm not the final sayer at all, you know. That's it's really a collaboration and a permanent debate where we have to take into account so many factors to decide what should be or not be the good thing into the game. So here is the thing.
That's actually very interesting because there's actually a lot of companies out there that basically want to put a lot of features into a game, and then there's usually at least one person that it always leads up to, this is what we're going to do, and you can't do anything about it. It's actually very interesting that there is at least a good amount of cooperation within your company, and that actually does set out a lot of opportunity to collaborate and to be out and just say, we work together, and there's not one person that actually makes the decisions. So that's actually very commendable on your part.
And the thing is that the game is so huge. There are many subjects into that game. You know, you can't be a specialist of everything. So we have also to share between us the different subjects. You know, if one is working on a global warming, the other is working on I don't know. Let's say a tax on in a specific country. You know, it's a very big content. You can't be a specialist of everything. Collaboration is really needed.
So on to the next question. So what made Eversim want to start political simulation?
So, you know, I would say that when starting a new company, this was also a decision and an opportunity for us to do something different. What I said before is that we have to concentrate more on a specific game genre, and then we have to decide what would be the first game we work on. And historically, I have to say that in 1994, when being at Silmarils, we wrote an initial early concept of this game. It was called at that time President 2000. And before that, it was on, I would say, 2 or 3 pages only on paper. And it was inspired by both management game, a mix of civilization game plus simulation. You know, simulation in the 90s were really something that was really developing on the game market. Actually, we did a couple of games at Silmarils about simulation, especially one called Robinson Requiem, which is a survival simulation. And also in strategy game, we made a couple of games in that side too, like Transarctica in the US was called Arctic Baron. And another one was called Storm Master. If people know Silmarils story, they will maybe know these games. So the President 2000 game was in the end never developed because we were focusing on other games, especially RPG games, adventure action games. So we made a RPG series called Isha that did quite well. And also other action game like Ashgan, Arabian Nights, and some others. So this is why we have to choose what we were doing. So this concept was just staying on the table. So by starting everything, this was really an opportunity to say, okay, we'll start something different, something we would like to do. It's like a new start for us. This is where we decide to enter political simulation. The last point to say is that, you know, when becoming more older, is your center of interest are different. It means that when I was younger, you know, politics not very interesting. And I have to say also that playing politics is a strange idea in itself, because politics is not really for a game. But today, you know, you could do a game for any subject because there are so many games and so many different players. So there is a place today for that kind of game. So this is also part of the story. It means that when we started Eversim, I was, let's say, around 42-year-old, and then at that time, politics was something that definitely interested me much more than when I was younger.
And speaking of that, that's actually around the time, somewhere around 2012, 2013 is whenever I actually got introduced into your game. I was just doing a little bit of research, and basically I saw your game whenever I was going through Steam, and I thought it was actually really interesting, so I kind of looked into it and I watched some gameplay of it, and there really wasn't a lot of gameplay for the game, so it's actually very interesting. And the main consensus that I actually do find along a lot of players is that this game, Power and Revolution, and just any other game in a geopolitical simulator franchise, is a game that is like no other. There's no other game that is comparable to what features you have in this. It's very amazing to see that you guys are still around doing this, and I really, really do appreciate it. And the community does as well.
Yeah, I've only a few more things to say because really I've already give some clues about this. What I could say is, which is different here, is that we have a part of our activity which is serious gaming, which was not in our original plan to do that. But we finally discovered that geopolitical simulator is really of a big interest of many organizations, especially for education. And from that point, really, then we just got demands and in that side, and especially with NATO and some of the schools where we did serious gaming. The other thing I could say is what is different, but what is similar. What is similar that we are asked for Cinema. Eversim is an independent company, and is also a small studio. And so, yeah, really, it's the same concept we have in mind. And what we try is really to build something, a bit different to the players.
So you actually did mention NATO, and so this actually leads us on to our next question. Does Eversim have any more partnerships or continuing partnerships with NATO, or do they have any future partnerships, such as with the United Nations, etc.? What can you explain about this?
Eversim is a fully independent company. We have no interest or shares with any other special organization. Also, what we have done really with NATO is we have developed for them a crisis simulation tool. And we've done this since 2010. Because NATO discovered that we released Commander-in-Chief. And from that point, they contacted us to say, we would like this game concept, but with the possibility to have our own crisis scenarios in it. So what we have done is we did a special development for them. It meant that we keep the core game, but we added an editor into it to build their own scenario and also to script the scenario. It means which event will start when. This idea is pretty similar to what we have in modding tool had, except it's more friendly. There is a graphic interface because NATO team using it are not programming. They are more, how to explain, educators or teachers, so they don't know how to program. And the other, and then they are still using the tool nowadays, but they do themselves their own scenario. Probably they create every year a couple of new scenarios depending the new diplomatic situation in the world. And from time to time, let's say 4 or 5 times a year, they go to different locations in NATO countries actually to use it and work with diplomats. The NATO part we work with is not really the military side. It's the civil side. It means, in NATO you have military side, which is really taking care of, let's say, military units, move troops, that kind of thing. And on the other part is more diplomatics. And in that side, you have more civil person working in it. And this is for that side we have developed the tool.
So on to the last question of the Eversim portion of the interview. What does Eversim have in store for their future, and what are you planning?
So yeah, simply just to continue what we do. It means to offer original game concept to the players, but yeah, it's also concentrating on certain kind of game. It means we are more people to develop game with big in-depth and detailed content than really creating, I would say, dreaming and beautiful universes of science fiction. Conversely, we are focusing on the current world around us, which is probably due to or willing to explore the game experience and maybe having this more intellectual approach of the game creation. Especially after all this year, I started to create games in, my first game I published was in '84, so it's a long time ago. And so I did many different things. And so now I'm interested in trying to offer something a bit different to all the so many games, so thousands of games we have on the market today.
So as we move on to questions on Power and Revolution, there is a lingering question that a lot of players already have problems with. I've known many various players that have downloaded the game on multiple computers and they just continue to have the same problem where they end up having to email you guys and just complain to the community, downloaded the game too many times, activation failed -3, that's the code that they usually get. What is the deal with the DRM, and what is the reasoning as to why Eversim is so adamant about keeping DRM?
All game is on a niche market. It's not so common to say that you will play a game about politics, as many would consider it's absolutely not interesting for a game. So it's a smaller market, and it's not so easy for us to be able to cover our development costs. This is why we have to be vigilant against fraud and making sure that users do not abuse by using the game on too many computers with the same license or account. ODM just limits the number of simultaneous machines on which the game is played. Nothing really more than that. It's probably that it's not something so uncommon because many games are using that kind of system. Anyway, I have to say that anyways, the decision to play or to like a game has nothing to do with DRM because the reason you want to play or buy a game is really its content. Yeah, I agree that the price is not very low. Yeah, I have to say. This is also why people think that it's quite a bit of money to buy a license. The reason is that because this is on a niche market, we sell less, so we have to find a good balance. It's where we are. So.
That is actually very interesting that you actually touched on the price of the product. It's not a very low price, and I completely agree with that. A lot of people agree with that. You got to make sure that you're making a profit. So it's very understandable that you guys do have the price where it is. At least from my point of view, I do understand why the price is so high. But in any case, we will move on to the next question. What can Eversim do to improve your communication with the community? There is a massive rallying cry with a lot of people in the community that actually say that you guys don't really seem to care about the community. So there's a lot of people that think that you don't want to associate with the community. So what can Eversim do? Can they do devlogs? Can they do more updates? What can you do to improve your communication?
Okay, so we certainly have to do more on the community and communication side. And also, this is also, the today interview is one step in that direction. I also to say that we have a customer support, which is answering every day to all email requests of users in a timely manner. And we don't do nothing. We take out that. We also collect all commands and wishes suggested by players to possibly include them in future versions. Also, you have to say that we are fundamentally game creators focusing on, daily on tough work of designing, programming, testing. This is our core activity, and to spend important time and community management is, it's important time. So that's a part of the story and the issue. And when we look at email we receive from users, we see that sometimes the question is very complex. It means that we could maybe say, okay, we could have a community manager. Yeah, but the community manager would not be able, in many cases, to answer correctly to the question because the game is very big and very complex.
Yeah.
So in many cases, we have to solve and to be able to answer to the question of some players. We have to look at the source code. We have to do some test internally to verify, because sometimes we receive requests from users saying that it does not work that I think it should. But when we look at it, we see that the player made a mistake, or he forgot that he did something before. And so it's
noticed that a lot.
So it's quite crazy. This is also a part of the reason. But okay, I agree. We probably have to do more, because it's something that will help us in the end, I think. So probably we will try within the future to do more on that side.
Okay. And the reason I even brought all of that up is because basically, when Masters of the World was on the market, and before Power and Revolution was even released, Eversim released, I think it was one update whenever I was playing it. It was right after, actually no, they didn't even release any updates after I started playing it. There was only the 2014 edition of Masters of the World. So it's actually one of the reasons why I even wanted to come to you guys is because you guys just stopped replying to anyone. There was no updates on Steam. There was nothing being released. And so that's partially what inspired me to come to you guys after Power and Revolution was released, to kind of say, hey, it would be really cool if we could actually collaborate with each other. So I really do appreciate how you guys have handled the collaboration between me and you, and I really do appreciate it, and so does the community. So as we move on to the next question, this was actually a question offered by a community member from the Discord. How many people are working on Power and Revolution, and how many people would you usually have working on anything such as updates, yearly updates, or even just featured games?
So we have a small core team of 6 people, including myself, working on the project for many years. This small team is focusing on all fundamental concepts and engines, like macroeconomics engine, wargaming, legislation, AI. When I mean AI is people, groups, or character reactions to whatever you are doing in the game. Also, other than that, other staff of the dev team will work on interface, animation, that kind of thing, graphic side, etc. Altogether, this make I would say, 15 people team here on the side, which is not so big. But on the other side, we were working for years, so this lead to to the possibility to develop much detail in the game anyway.
So would you say this is the reason why it does take a little while, why there's so many delays when you guys are trying to release an update such as 2019? I mean, that thing was delayed by about a month. So is that something as a reason why you would say that?
It's a part of this, yes. Yeah. But and also you have to know that each time we develop a update or patch, it's a crazy huge testing process we have. The reason of this is that there are so many possibilities in this game. It's like I discovered that when we create this game, I was maybe a bit fool to don't think to that before, but. If we have more than 200 countries that are playable in the game, plus all the opposition in each country, and all the different game modes, and then you could play for more than 100 years. So just to test all the possibilities, it's a huge, crazy work. So we have internally a system to test. We call that checklist. To try to avoid any mistake when we release an update, and just to make that list, it takes 2 days long for one guy. It's like 200 points. We have to check. When you take off with a plane, the pilot do a checklist. That's the same idea. But it's the same idea, but with a game. 200 points to check before you launch it. The conclusion is that it's so complex things to say the okay, final okay to put the update, that we try to not to do so many, because each time you make an update, it's a risk, to break something in the game. Try to mix up to everything in one patch, and also I could say to you that we have currently a patch on the work. And it should be released, I think, probably in a couple of weeks. So we will say more on the website when it's ready. And we also we have taken in account a lot of probably like 50 to 100 points we collect from various sources. It could be either bugs, or it could be game balance, or various game content. Sometimes we receive, not complaints, but requests from users from different countries. They say that a tax is not the same, or a highway is missing, or that kind of thing. So we try to correct also this point in the update.
What would the main focus of Power and Revolution, or Geopolitical Simulator as a whole, be? A game that doesn't focus on the military as you would see a Paradox game such as Hearts of Iron concentrate on.
Yeah, military is just a part of the game. And I feel it's not what is in majority played by players. Because if a player would like to have a war game, he could find a lot of them on the market that could be much more detailed and would perform better. But the thing with war game is that we try to have all together in the game to make the game as realistic as possible as is our current world around us. And military is a part of the thing. Now, our first focus is about politics, and what the idea of the game is, what would you do if you were the president? That's the basic main idea of this game. And on this, you try to really to focus. And now, when we design this, the first challenge for us is to be able to simplify enough the reality of the world to just make it understandable or playable by players. If you look at the budget of a state, we present it with maybe 20 or 30 different taxes in our game, but in reality you could have 101, and there's more, especially you would have specific rules that could be important for every specific country. And this means that our first difficulty is trying to make something clear from the complexity of the reality of the world. We were trying to, another point which is quite complex to manage is we try to stay objective into the game. It means that we should not say that political party is good or bad, or better or less than any other one. What we have to do is to put what is the reality in place and do not put any judgment on it, and not to give a favor to any of the existing system in the different countries. So it's something that takes us important of our energy to try to make it the best. We often rely on data, or we are using a lot of Wikipedia to make sure that we say is objective enough for all countries. It is true that we are French and we are living in a democracy, an Occidental democracy, which obviously give us a view of the world, which I think, if we were a Russian guy or American guys, maybe we could say that we have a wrong, worse view of the world. But France is, in a medium of Occidental countries. It's not the biggest one, but it's not the smallest one. Also, we have a long culture of diplomacy, and I think this helps to have a good view of what should be the world. But again, we try to be very respectful of all ideas and of existing political system in the world.
So as we move on to the last question, how does Eversim decide what feature gets added into the game? Similar to what you touched on earlier about the process of eliminating bugs, does Eversim have a similar process with feature additions?
So, as I said before, we have internal discussion, I would call that think tank session, and where we try to summarize and decide what should be added or improved in each new version of the game. We have to take into account several aspects, several constraints. First thing is, if we add new features, it should be something that is trendy or something interesting in the current. For example, this year we added a big aspect of global warming and climate action, that type of things, because this is becoming obvious that today it's becoming bigger and bigger for everybody in the world. Also, the other part of discussion is what are the wishes we get from community of players. This start from bug correction or specific game features and facilities to add into the interface or that kind of thing. And in the end, we have to find a good balance of all of this, depending on the difficulty to implement it and the schedule we have, and all together make the project. But we have some limits. It means that we can't do as much as we dream. And on the other side, we try really to make a good mix. It means that we have to improve the current game as it is, and the cost, because we have players that follow us for years and years, and they want to get things better. They want to improve, better balance of everything. But we have also players that just want new things. So we can't say we do only improvement or only new features. It should be a mix of to satisfy everybody. Also, in the decision, we have kind of difficulties. If you want to make a realistic simulation, it's in opposition to make a good game, because in a good game, you should have intense and exciting gameplay at every second. But the real world is sometimes boring. Nothing happens for years and months, and you decide to make a game with that. It's a challenge, because you have to keep things realistic on the other side, make it exciting. So this is one of the points which is very complex for us. Which is, if you make a game like Civilization, imagine, not Civilization, but a game that starting in the past, in the mythology, you don't really care of realistic. It's just the dreaming story. So you give what you like, you put in the game what you like in a thematic. But here we impose to us to be realistic. So this is really a big difference when you develop a simulation game, not just for political simulation, any simulation. If you make a bus driving simulation, you have the same issue. Make it exciting where it's not exciting. So that's a key point. And also, I was saying that we have to find a balance between new features and improving the game. But if you look at new features, it's crazy because if you look at the players we have, some just would like, let's say, macroeconomics. The other one would like more wargaming. Another one would just pure domestic politics, budgeting or legislation. Another one would just want to change the world's fate, and some other want a builder. So it's crazy. We have everything in the game, and we have to keep a good balance of all of this with all these different players. So it's not so easy to find the good decision. But what so far we've tried to do is to keep a mix of all of that in order to make the game as itself. It means to have a mix of what is the reality of current of state of a country, what is phase 2. It's all the subjects. So we try to do is to keep all the subjects on the same level of detail. Eversim is currently also working on a new game concept, which is that time, I would say, a more turn-based strategy game with role-playing content. It's still based on current world context, with based on what we call asymmetric wars or modern wars. Today the wars are. It's not just military aspect. It's a mix of diplomacies, cyber attacks, trading, spying, social manipulation, that kind of thing. And we are doing a game about that with a mix of role playing. As opposed to geopolitical simulator, this game will not have what we call budget management or legislation. Of course, this game will have a multiplayer mode, which would be far developed. So I can't really say more today, but certainly the game would be interesting to many players of geopolitical simulator. But we will unveil more details probably in the next 6 months. Probably also try to do a beta test period before the end of the year, but we will share more in the near future anyway.
Alright guys, you heard it here first. Eversim just announced that they are actually developing a brand new game, and I will definitely be keeping a close eye on their content as it develops. In any case, since that was the last question of the interview, if I could ask you another question, what is your opinion on the President of the United States, Donald Trump?
Oh, yeah, really. I can't really give my personal opinion because I think it's something of myself, What I could say is that there is a before and after Donald Trump, because I think that the world is, especially the world balance and the way the world is working is now different, And this morning I heard that now there is a fight between Huawei and Google. This is something very new. Before Donald Trump, we probably have not seen that, I feel. So I cannot say it's good or bad. What I could say it's there is a lot of change due to this in the current world, which is pretty interesting, I would say.
And before we close it off, could I also ask your opinion about the president of France, Emmanuel Macron?
Yeah, again, for the same reason, I can't really give my personal opinion, but I could say a few things which I think are commonly shared, especially by French people. You know, Macron is really younger than any other president in France, and he was giving a fresh new hope to the country. Now we see that after around 2 years on government, it was not at all so easy for him. Especially we've got what we call the yellow jackets in France. Probably you have seen something on TV about this. Yeah, this is something very new for the politics in France. Even if I think that this thing that was boiling for years and years underground before it appears now. But I would say Emmanuel Macron is bringing something fresh and new to the politics, and also this is in what we call center. You know, it's not from the right or from the left. It's in center, trying to meet, a good compromise for every citizen in France. So that's, it's a compromise, and a compromise make nobody happy, and this is a difficulty. But probably the compromise is the best system for a democracy. If you look at, for example, in Germany, Germany is used for so many years after Second World War to have, a government which is a coalition, and a coalition imposes you to make compromises. And in France, we never got that system. We have a presidential system where president has a lot of power, probably much more than a U.S. president, because U.S. president is so many times limited by the Congress. And we see that Donald Trump had a lot of difficulty to pass some laws or some political promises he did because of the Congress. Here in France, the president has much more power. Not as much as maybe Vladimir Putin is in Russia. But Yes, the president is pretty powerful. But even with that, we see that to maintain a strict democracy, he is really obliged to make a lot of change in his program to make sure he stay on power in good condition.
All right, Louis, thank you for those off-topic questions, but in any case, thank you so much for joining me for this interview today. It has been an honor to actually talk to you because I've been playing your games for years, and I'm just honestly a huge fan, and I really do appreciate you coming onto the platform and just talking to me. And this is surely a advancement for my YouTube channel, and just being a small YouTuber as myself, this is a huge step forward for me, and I'm honestly ecstatic that you actually finally just decided that it would be a good idea to have a sit-down conversation with me. So thank you so much for joining me today, and would you like to say a couple of words before we go ahead and send us off?
I also wanted to thank you for preparing with me this interview. I hope this will be interesting to the community of players that will like the different ideas, also to learn how to have this story of developing this so many project of geopolitical simulator. This is now more than 15 years we are developing it. It's crazy. It was something I never imagined before starting it.
And I completely agree. So thank you again so much, Louis, for joining me today for this interview. And to you guys, as we send this off, thank you so much for getting me to the point where I am today. I really do appreciate all of the support that you guys have been giving me. And in any case, thank you all for just supporting me, for subscribing, to getting me to the point to where I am today. So in any case, thank you guys so much for joining me today for this long-awaited interview with Louis-Marie Rocques. And in any case, hopefully we can do more in the future. And for first-time users only, go ahead and take advantage of the coupon that I will be posting in the next couple of days. So as we send us off, again, I just want to give one final thank you to you all for getting me here. So finally, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and if you all, I will go ahead and put a link for Power and Revolution in the description below. So any case, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. So thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.